Welcome to Eye on America. I'm Michelle Miller. Today we take a closer look at some of the obstacles and opportunities facing our nation's diverse economy. In California, we explore why many vineyard farmers are concerned about declining wine sales. And in Missouri and Oregon, we see how the rising popularity of women's pro sports is having a halo effect on other business ventures. But we begin with a topic that's front of mind for millions of Americans: retirement planning. While workers in their 40s are often at peak earning potential, major and unexpected events can frequently pull focus away from building savings. Jill Schlesinger explains what this age group can do to contribute to their nest eggs, even when life gets in the way.
For 48-year-old Rowan Childs, a recent divorce turned her financial life upside down.
Initially, I was really nervous and had a lot of anxiety about it. But ultimately, now I feel so much more empowered. Those are all donations? Yes.
Like others in their 40s, Childs, who runs her own literacy nonprofit, was already anxious about juggling personal debt and putting away college tuition for her 2 children. She then joined the roughly half of married women around her age in the U.S. who have dealt with a divorce, a seismic event that can jeopardize retirement planning.
That has completely changed my initial vision. Where am I going to be in my 60s or my 70s or 80s?
When you were first married, did you think about retirement at all?
It was too far away, I think. Definitely looking at what my parents were doing, though, was definitely something that I was observing.
People who are in their 40s and 50s will do worse than their parents and their grandparents.
Teresa Ghilarducci, a labor economist at the New School for Social Research, says those 2 previous generations could at least bank on government-sponsored retirement programs.
2 generations?
2 generations. Because people had grandparents that were living through an expansion of Social Security and Medicare.
Both of those programs are now facing funding challenges, something Childs considered when she had to make a series of tough financial decisions. The costliest was to buy her ex-husband's share of their home in Wisconsin by borrowing more than $100,000 from her 401k.
You wanted to stay in your house, right?
I did want to stay in the house. It was also because my daughter needed to be in the same school district. To me, it didn't make sense to sell the house and then buy a house in the same school district, probably at even more.
Borrowing from a retirement plan, as Rowan Childs did, should be a last resort, because if you lose your job, the loan must be repaid in full, or you may have to fork over taxes and penalties. And if you're in your 40s, paying for a child's college should take a back seat to protecting your own savings.
It may be tough love, but otherwise, you might end up relying on your children later on.
Jokingly, I told my kids I could move in with them.
Yeah, how do they feel about that?
My son was like, well, maybe you could live close by.
The key in your 40s, take deep breaths regardless of the challenges.
Relax. Planning for retirement is best for the daylight hours, not in the middle of the night. And when you wake up, take some action steps. Worrying is not action.
With plenty of time to get back on her feet, Childs says she has finally stopped worrying.
You're willing to say everything's on the table.
Yeah.
Maybe working longer could be on the table, working part-time is on the table.
Yeah. I don't necessarily know exactly how I'm going to get there, but if I see something or that's what I want, I often will find a way.
When on that journey to financial freedom, sometimes thinking outside the box is the best way to get there.
Coming up, how an iconic Japanese liquor is surging across the Pacific. This is Eye on America. Welcome back. Sake has long been considered a great pairing with eating sushi or singing karaoke here in the U.S. But the traditional Japanese drink has recently begun to gain a wider appreciation across the country. Nancy Chin shows us how American brewers are honoring this beloved foreign-born drink.
After weeks of cooking, mixing, and pressing, Jake Myrick and Noriko Kamei are ready to raise a glass. Sake, with its silky texture and clean, crisp profile,
It's very nice.
is made of just 4 ingredients: water, yeast, sake rice, and a fermented culture known as koji.
What do people say to you when they try sake for the first time?
People know sake, they heard the word, but they don't know what it is. It is actually, from my point of view, the last craft beverage being made right now.
The couple has made countless batches since they started brewing out of their garage 15 years ago, when they missed fresh sake after moving from Japan. Today, their company, Sequoia Sake, operates out of a San Francisco warehouse. Their specialty, using locally sourced ingredients, including water from Yosemite, to celebrate their California heritage.
We age our sake in the barrels that had previously had wine and bourbon whiskey. And it's not a traditional sake, but I mean, why not? People love it.
A new approach that's quickly attracting more Americans.
How would you describe the craft sake scene in the United States?
I think it's having an amazing renaissance. People are really embracing that identity of being American-made craft sake.
Monica Samuels is a sake samurai, one of only about 100 in the world, awarded the title by the Sake International Association.
I think people have this PTSD from having sake hotter than a cup of coffee in that white ceramic carafe, maybe dropping it in a beer and doing a sake bomb. And so to shine a light on it where you're drinking it in a wine glass, in a nice place, it's a completely different experience, and it can be really illuminating for people.
We met her at Brooklyn Cura in New York, where the taps are full of sake, and classes are offered through a newly opened sake study center. It's one of nearly 3 dozen breweries that have opened in the U.S., fueled in part by the growth of specialty sake rice farms on the West Coast and in the South.
It's fascinating to see the rise of sake here in the United States at a time that it's actually declining in Japan.
Yes, if you think about the reasons why people choose to drink sake in the U.S., a lot of it is their wanderlust or romance with Japan. It's on their bucket list.
This is the room where all the magic happens.
Yes.
That reverence of Japanese culture is something Kamei honors in what she calls her sacred room, where she mixes koji cultures into more than 600 pounds of rice, massaging it constantly over 2 days.
One of the things I enjoy the most about my job is I always constantly use all my 5 senses. I'm always kind of smelling and touching and looking how fermentation is. It's a living thing, and that's like a craftsmanship for me.
You put the new bag in.
Okay.
And that tradition is being carried forward by the next generation of brewers, including Jake and Noriko's daughter Olivia, who showed us the ropes.
Open.
And then grab a new bag.
Grab a new bag. Oh, close.
Yep.
Perfect.
I had varying levels of success.
Am I done? No, I'm not.
You're done. You're done.
Okay.
I'm just waiting for you to open the bag.
Oh, I'm supposed to have another bag. Oh, that's right. Okay. All right, here we go.
There you go.
Yeah,
So we don't have
Perfect.
a single spilt drop.
Yes, yes, you did fantastic.
Fantastic.
Along with her mom, the college student is one of just a handful of female brewers in the U.S.
What does that mean to you?
It's rewarding. Even today, there's still some discrimination against women entering the koji room. I experienced that when I was in Japan training at some of the famous sake breweries. I want to set an example for all the new sake breweries opening up across the world. Like, look at this. We don't have to have that. And I'm proud to be an example of that here.
The family, modernizing an ancient tradition.
This is the baby you've been taking care of?
And showing just how much effort
This is the end result.
Cheers.
goes into crafting every last drop.
I think it's good.
You like it? I like it a lot. I think it's very good.
Yeah.
We turn now from rice wine to grape wine. Sales of the alcoholic beverage are down 8% from 2023 to 2024. Elizabeth Cook examines how this steep decline is impacting California's expansive grape industry.
60 acres this year.
Usually, the grapes growing in Garrett Schaefer's California vineyard are destined to become fine wines, but not this year.
Your grapes are literally dying here on the vine. These things aren't going to get harvested.
No, they're turning to raisins. They'll just end up falling off.
50 acres, 400 tons of grapes have been left to rot here as a result of too much supply and not enough demand, as sales of wine continue a downward slide.
An equivalent of 3.5 billion bottles of wine just was not drunk last year.
It's a big number.
A number Schaefer blames on inflation. The price of a liter of wine rose more than 13% in just the last 5 years. Sales took a hit after the World Health Organization declared no level of alcohol consumption is safe for our health.
Orange bitters.
And there's a generation of young people who just aren't drinking wine as much as the baby boomers.
I, over time, really realized that drinking wine regularly was not sitting super well with me.
Brianda Gonzalez has shied away from traditional wine.
My dad's a bartender by trade, but a few years ago he got sick. So that meant alcohol had to be cut out. So I went down this whole rabbit hole of non-alcoholic drinks and became fascinated by the category.
Her preference now? Non-alcoholic beverages, which she sells at her shops in California. Sarah Chacon and her sister Helen are among the steady stream of customers.
I do not drink wine. I've actually never been a big fan of wine, but I do like an alternative.
Do you find that you're drinking less these days?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah, just for health reasons.
In California, where 80% of the country's wine grapes are grown, the impact is dramatic. Here's a sight no wine lover wants to see. Heavy machines ripping row upon row of vines straight from the ground.
That tractor cutting these can do about 30 acres a day.
For more than 50 years, Don Wortley built his business around weeding out diseased vines. These days, growers hire him to clear their fields.
What did it cost this man? $20,000 an acre, perhaps? Now he's throwing it away?
You see what this looks like here. Look what happened here, 10 acres.
Yeah, so this was 10 acres that we pulled out this year. We didn't farm it, and we couldn't sell it.
Altogether, Schaefer ripped out 60 acres, 1/3 of all the vineyards his family farmed since 1894. Gone, too, are people who work this land.
We used to have, 6 to 8 full-time employees through the year. We're down to 2 of us.
And may well get worse. Experts recommend 33,000 more acres. 6% of all the vineyards left in California be ripped out. It's a new reality here, far more painful than simply sour grapes.
Ahead, how entrepreneurs are cashing in on the growing demand for women's sports. That story is next. We close our show by highlighting a big step towards gender equity in the sports business. Professional women's leagues were projected to earn over $1 billion in revenue in 2024. But the recent explosive growth surrounding women's athletics is not contained to the courts or fields. Dana Jacobson meets entrepreneurs in Missouri and Oregon who are investing big to capitalize on this tipping point.
So we're downtown. We're actually only about 1.5 miles from CPKC Stadium right now, walking. Yeah, so.
It may be an empty storefront now, but Monica Brady and Rachel Glenn see so much more.
Did you know as soon as you walked in this was the spot?
It felt right.
Yeah.
Yes.
The duo with a game plan to help level the playing field when it comes to women's sports in Kansas City.
We're going to have the bar right here against the brick wall, really showcasing the history of the space.
The near 2,000 square foot space, their site for the Dub, what will be the city's first women's sports bar, prioritizing women's games and matches on the screen.
Why the name, the Dub?
A lot of reasons. Honestly, in sports, you want to go get the W, you want to get the win. So it's short for win, short for women. You know, we're the hub for every dub, so.
Yeah. So give me a sense of what we're going to see on the screens when you guys are open.
We're going to be showing all the sports we can, you know, NWSL, WNBA. We want to look into, you know, college sports for sure. It's never that women haven't had the talent, they just haven't had the exposure. So let's be that place where we're giving them that.
Partners in business and life, Brady and Glenn are both passionate sports fans, but their inspiration for the dub came from another, a woman 1,800 miles away in Portland, Oregon. In April of 2022, Jenny Wynn followed her gut in opening the Sports Bra, the first ever bar dedicated to women's sports.
The idea sparked in 2018, but it was just kind of this fantasy world that my friends and I joked about. But then in 2020, the pandemic happened, and it just turned everything upside down. And that's when the idea that started to kind of grow in my brain as maybe a way to give back to Portland.
After investing her life savings in the Sports Bra, Wynn made the money back within the first year of her business being open. Still thriving when we caught up with her.
Thank you. It kind of opened the doors to what is possible. Because if we could change the narrative behind what's on TV in a place like a sports bar, where for 40 plus years, sports bars have been a certain way. And the Sports Bra turned all of that on its head with what I feel like are very minor changes, but minor changes that created a dramatic impact.
So much so, Reddit co-founder Alex Ohanian took notice.
Every bar I ever walked into was only showing exclusively men's sports.
Husband to tennis legend Serena Williams, Ohanian's 776 Foundation is backing Wynn to help franchise the business.
And I'm just looking for all the ways that we can reinforce and build.
In the first 24 hours of accepting applications, there were 150. They've amassed 450 potential prospects.
We have a goal of opening 5 by the end of next year, and it's looking good.
The growth surrounding women's sports comes as no surprise to Haley Rosen, CEO of the multimedia company Just Women's Sports.
I feel like we've sort of hit a tipping point, and women's sports is here, it's happening, people get it, they're excited, and I think it's just the beginning.
That fervor paying dividends. The NWSL inked a record-setting 4-year media rights deal worth $240 million going into the 2024 season, which then saw record attendance and a 95% jump in viewership. And in July, the WNBA secured a monumental 11-year TV contract worth around $2.2 billion.
That kind of money that's being put into it, what does that say about women's sports?
It says that it's here and it's a big business and there's a real growing industry around it. And I think those are the smallest deals you will see probably ever in women's sports. There's just so much opportunity on the table, and it's sports bars, it's media, it's merchandising. There's a whole industry to be built, and I think that's really exciting and a really big opportunity.
If there's money to be made, someone will find a way.
Someone will find a way. Truly, everybody is watching women's sports. It's young boys, young girls, men, women, people who like sports are liking women's sports. It's sort of that simple.
You couldn't get to the numbers that they're seeing in viewership if you
it
didn't
was just
have
women. Yeah. And I do think that's been a big misconception with all of this. Like, it's not just women watching women, it's sports fans, whoever they are, getting excited about awesome sports at the highest level.
Reason enough that even without a franchise opportunity, others are following in the Sports Bra's wake, with bars popping up around the country prioritizing women's sports. Rough and Tumble in Seattle, a bar of their own in Minnesota, and Denver's the 99ers among them, with a handful of others in the process of fundraising and building, including the dub.
Oh, we're gonna have a local artist paint a mural on the wall, an ode to all things women's sports.
You know, we want this to be a Kansas City place. Inclusivity is really our huge business model.
Be inclusive and a safe place for all fans.
There's no doubt Kansas City has the fan base. Home to the NWSL's current and CPKC Stadium, the first ever built for a professional women's team. After selling out all the home games in the stadium's inaugural season, it's already shown If you build it, they will come.
At what point will you know that you've gotten the dub when it comes to this place?
Oh, wow.
If we can just look at each other and look it around and, you know, seats are full, TVs are on, women's sports, sound is on, and we can see that playing out. For me, that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, you know, something that we've been working towards for a year now, but also something that has been deserved for so much longer than that.
For more stories like these and live coverage of breaking news, stream us right here on CBS News 24/7. I'm Michelle Miller. Thank you for watching Eye on America.